programming. We are discussing about the unit 3, that is control flow and functions. The topic explained is conditional, alternative, chained conditional statements. The objective of learning this topic is to be familiar about the conditional statements, the alternative statements and the chained conditional statements. Now let us see about the control structures. So the control structures can be divided into 3 categories, that is the decision making statements, the iteration statements and the unconditional statements. So considering the decision making statements, that is the if statements, if else statements, if else statements and nested conditional statements. Okay. So first we are going to see only these conditional statements, that is the decision making statements. Decision making statements or conditionals, or it is also called as branching statements. The execution of the program which depends on a condition, so that we call it as decision making statements or a condition statements. Okay. So when a program gets executed, the sequence of the control flow will differ from the normal program. Okay. So normally the program will be executing in a sequential order, that is one after the other, but in this case we have to take a decision. At a particular point we should take a decision. Okay. So these statements are called as decision making statements. So we have to evaluate the condition, and based upon the result of the condition we have to branch the statements. Okay. So that we call it as branching statements or decision making statements. So which will produce, after evaluating the condition, it will produce true or false as an outcome. Okay. Based on that we will execute a set of statements. Okay. So types of conditional statements: the if statement, if else statement, if else statement and nested conditional statements. These are the types of conditional statements. So first let us learn about the if statement. So that this if statement is called as conditional statement. So if statement contains a logical expression using which the data is compared and a decision is made based on the result of the comparison. Okay. So the syntax of if statement is expression true statement. So we will have a colon right over there. Okay. So if expression is nothing but the condition, so we are going to check a condition, and based upon that condition we are going to execute the statements. So if the condition is true, we are going to execute the true statements which are given within this if statements. If the condition is false, then it comes out of the if statements. It does not print any statements. Okay. So it comes out of the if statement. Let us see an example. So here is given an example that a is equal to 10. So first we are initializing the value of a as 10. So checking a condition that if a is equal to 10, then we are going to print a is equal to 10. Okay. So this is the if statement. So the output we will get as a is equal to 10, because the condition is checked here as if a is equal to 10. So already we have initialized the value of a as 10. So we will get it, since this condition is true, the statement print a is equal to 10 will be coming as output. So in the case, suppose if a is initialized as 5, and if we are checking that if a is equal to 10, so what will be the result? The result will be, it will be displaying nothing, because it will come out of the if statement. So no result will be obtained. Okay, because it checks that if a is equal to 10, but we have already given the value of a as 5. So it comes out of the if statement. So no statement will be printed, because in the print statement only we have given as a is equal to 10, that is if the condition of a is true, a is equal to 10, that is if the if condition is true, only the result will be printed with this true statements. Okay. So this case is represented as the flow chart here. So flow chart, we all know that it is a diagrammatic representation of a program. So in this diamond box is the decision making box. It is also called as a decision making box. Okay. So we are checking the condition inside this box. So if the condition is true, then the body of the if statement will be executed. Okay, which will be given in the rectangular box. Okay. So if the condition is false, then it will come out of the loop. So this is the diagram flow chart for this program. Now let us see about the alternative execution, that is if else statement. The second form of the if statement is the alternative execution statement, that is in which there are two possibilities and the condition determines which block of statement should be executed. Okay. So, the syntax is given as if test expression, then the body of 1 will be executed. If the test expression is true, then the body of 1 will be executed. If the test expression is false, that is if else statement will be executed, that is the body 2 will be executed. Okay. So, this is the syntax for the if else statement. So, if the test expression evaluates to be true, then the body 1 statements will be executed, else the body 2 statements will be executed. This is the diagrammatic representation of that if else. So, if this is a flow chart. Okay. So, the diamond box will be checking the condition. So, test expression is checked. If it is true, then the left hand side, that is the body of if, will be executed. If the condition is false, then the body of else statement will be executed. Let us see an example for this. So, a is equal to 10. It is initialized the a value of as 10. Okay. So, if a is equal to 10, that is we are checking a condition whether a is equal to 10. Then it is asked to print a is equal to 10. Suppose if a is not equal to 10, that is else part is given as print a is not equal to 10. Okay. So, here we have given a is equal to initialized a is value as 10. So, we will get the result as a is equal to 10. Suppose if a is value is initialized as 2. So, if a is equal to 10 is checked, what will be the result? This is a false. A is equal to 10 will retrieve a false. Okay. So, the if statement will not be printed. So, the else statement will be printed. So, we will get the result as print a is not equal to 10. Okay. Okay. So, then next statement is else if else statement, that is else if only we will be giving it as elif. Okay. So, else if else statement. So, that will be we call it as chained conditionals. Okay. So, the elif statement or the chained conditional statement allows us to check the multiple expressions for true and execute a block of code as soon as one of the condition evaluates to true. So, the elif statement has more than one statement and there is only one if condition. So, this is a syntax which will be given for the elif statements. Okay. So, first we are going to check a condition, that is if test expression 1. So, we are checking the condition, first condition. If a condition is checked, then body 1 will be executed. Elif, or if that is false, then we are going to check another condition, that is elif the test expression 2 is checked. If that is true, then the body 2 will be executed. Suppose if that is also false, we are going to check another condition, that is elif the test expression 3. If the test expression 3 is true, then the body of 3 will be executed. Suppose if all these are false, then we are going to execute the else part, that is else, that is the body n will be executed. Okay. So, we are checking a number of test expressions above. So, that is the elif statement or chained conditional statements. Okay. So, this is the flow chart which will represent the elif statement. So, we have two different decision boxes because first decision box is for the if statement. So, if the if is true, then the body of if will be executed and will come to the end of the code. Suppose if the if statement, if condition is false, then it will be moving to the next test expression, next condition will be checked. So, that is the elif statement. Okay. If the elif is false, then it will move to the body of else. Suppose if the elif is true, then the body of elif will be executed. So, if none of this if and elif are true, then it will move to the body of the else. So, if after executing all this, then it move to the end of the code. Okay. So, understood. So, here we can check more number of conditions. So, that is the advantages of this elif statement. So, this is an example which is given for the elif statement. So, a is equal to 9, we are initializing the a value as 9. Okay. So, if a is equal to 10, we are checking the condition whether a is equal to 10. So, then we will get print a is equal to 10. Suppose if elif a is less than 10. Okay. So, if that condition becomes false, then we are checking whether a is less than 10. If a is not equal to 10, then we are checking for a is less than 10. So, print if it is lesser, then print a is lesser than 10. So, if it is also false, then we are moving to elif a is greater than 10. We are checking whether a is greater than 10. So, if that condition also becomes false, If it becomes true, we are going to print a is greater than 10. If that condition also becomes false, we are going to print a is not equal to 10. Okay. So, if a is equal to 9, we know that a is equal to 9 means the first statement will become false. So, we will move to the next. So, we are checking whether it is less than 10. So, we know a is less than 10. So, we are going to print that a is lesser than 10. Let us see about nested conditionals or nested if else. So, this is a type of thing that the two expressions will be nested, that is one conditional can be nested with another condition, that is we can have if and if else statement inside another if else statement. Okay. So, this is a syntax given. So, if test expression 1 is checked, then if it is true, then the two statements will be executed, else the again in the else part we have another if statement to be checked. So, if expression 2 is checked, if it is true, then the two statements will be printed. If that one is false, the else statement will be printed as false statement. Okay. So, this is the chained conditionals or sorry nested conditionals. Okay. So, this is the flow chart which will be given to represent the nested conditionals. So, see first part, that is the test condition 1 decision box is the if statement box. So, we are checking the if first test condition. So, if it is true, then the body of if will be printed and we will come to the end of code. If it is false, then we are moving to the next diamond box statement where another condition is checked, that is test condition 2 is checked. So, if that condition is true, then body of if will be printed and coming to end of code. If that is false, then we are going to print the body of the else statement. So, it is nested. So, first one is that is test condition 1 is the if statement and next one is the if else statement. So, they are nested together. So, this is called as nested conditionals. So, let us see an example. Num is equal to float input enter a number. So, this is float is given to take the input value as a floating values also. Okay. So, we are given as float. So, we are taking an input here. So, num is equal to float of input enter a number is when we are giving enter a number, we are entering a number, this will be taken as input. So, the input the number we are giving is stored in the variable num. Okay. So, now we are checking that number, that is a input with the whether it is greater than or equal to 0 in the if statement. So, if number is greater than or equal to 0. So, we are checking. So, if that is true, then it will be entering into the another if statement, that is if num equal to 0. Okay. So, if that is equal to 0, then we are going to print 0, else if we are if it is false, if it is not equal to 0, we are going to print a positive number, because we have satisfied two conditions, number is greater than 0 as well as number is equal to 0. Okay. So, if equal to 0 is false, so it is not equal to 0. So, this number should be greater than 0. So, that is retrieved from there. So, else part will be printed, that is a print positive number, that the positive number will be printed, or else if all these conditions becomes false, then we will get the conclusion as negative number. So, print negative number will be printed. Okay. So, suppose we are giving the number as 50. So, we are entering the number, that is input is 50. This 50 will be stored in the num value, that is num variable. So, we are checking first if 50 is greater than or equal to 0. So, we know it is true. So, then we are entering into another checking condition, that is if num is equal to 0. So, if it is not equal to 0, so we are going to the else part and printing that number is positive number. Okay. So, this is an example and these are the questions related to this topic. Okay. Thank you.